I'm hoping Thomas is going to find plenty of video to put over this one today, because I feel fairly minging, lots of hat hair. So hopefully he can. I need a wash. I'm a bit not prepared for my video today. This is hacking part 2, and I say hacking, but I like to call it sort of nagging about, hunt rides. This is a massive part of their education, a big part I think it plays in getting your horse ready for the eventing season, having a happy, fit, confident horse. And so it's not all about trotting around the school, practicing a dressage test, getting on the bit. I think I've said it in many of my videos already that all 3 disciplines roll into one. The ABCs of our training all carries through to all 3 disciplines, 3 parts of our event. And this is definitely a massive part of it. We are so lucky where we are, of the facility that we have, the riding that we have around our place. And so I was just going to share with you guys what we do once the horses have got fit, and or just the basic hardening up of their work, basic fitness. We then start nagging about, going on some fun hunt rides, and not being afraid of getting in a little bit of mud. So Mark Davidson, who is based here, and someone I think very highly of, he's been with me for a year now, come from up north, has a wonderful way with the horses, but just come down here to learn, to hopefully get some experience here, to set up on his own one day. And I believe he could easily do that. He has a very nice, natural way with horses, and horses really like him. And he was with us last year, and he's a great asset to a team and a good guy to have around. Talks a lot. He's my hacking companion most of the time at the minute, and doesn't draw breath much. He's like a radio channel that can keep going and talk about anything, but thankfully doesn't sing. But he's a good guy, and last year he did a couple of my younger ones. If I get very busy or go away a lot and a young horse needs a bit of consistency, he really helped me with them and did a great job. So he comes out with me quite a lot when we go on these sorts of rides. And today I was riding I Diablo Joe, that is now an 8-year-old. And he was riding Cooley Goodwood, who is a 7-year-old now. And so we were just going on a fun ride, which means basically we're sort of gone an hour and a bit, just trotting and cantering round the roads and tracks. Our roads out of the back are so quiet, you probably don't see one car in the whole time that you go out. And we've got plenty of bridleways, and our landlords own some land which have headlands, and privately owned headlands which we are allowed to use. So between that and bridleways, you know, we can go sort of wherever, as far as you could see, which, as you know, the view from our house is very spoiling, with loads of different variation for the horses, which I personally love. So we went, we sort of trot down the road, get going, have a warm up, and then sort of we could start walking up the edge of a field on the edge of a bridle path, and at the end of it there's either a gateway or a very small little very natural ditch with a bit of running water in, but it looks it's very natural. So it's not got flags either side or built up like a proper ditch is. But I don't do it very much. But every now and then, as a variation or a horse getting ready for the start of the season, we will go and take some and go and have a play with them. And it's always quite interesting. Neither of these horses have done it. And so it's always interesting to go and just start using natural facilities. And it was quite interesting. I mean, my horse, I've never done this with him. He was very brave at the ditch, never batted an eyelid. However, went a little bit quick at it, and sort of, you could see I did it forward and back a few times, and he didn't give it a lot of thought. He thought, I've got to go. So he just sort of held himself over. But each time he went back over it, he sort of jumped back into the face of the ditch, the other side. And it was all a bit quick and he wasn't giving himself a lot of time to think from his brain to his legs of getting his footwork right and being confident. It was like he sort of thought he had to do it in a hurry, and so was hurling himself in it rather than just giving himself a bit of time and thinking about it. So with these two horses, because they're old enough they've got experience, but this is very different. They've been out for their hack for 10 minutes, so this has come along as something sort of out of the blue. So give them the benefit of the doubt, and I just let him go forward and back, sort of 4, 5, 6 times. But I just wanted him to slow down and process it, that it's not a stress. But just give himself time to just think about it and organise his footwork, to know that this is all okay, and get confidence in himself and confidence in me. It's important that we ourselves give them the confidence of, give them the freedom, stay balanced ourselves, weight in your heels, try and not be shifted when they do funny things. If they do a bad jump, I'd rather turn around and just do it again a couple more times. They don't need a kick in the belly or something like that. He was willing to go. He just was over keen but didn't really use his head that clearly. So I don't want him to get stressed or think to me. I just want to turn around and do it again, but just not at speed for this horse. He just wanted it to have a bit of time. I just wanted him to go to the edge with a forward-thinking mind, but forward-thinking mind doesn't necessarily mean speed. To just then learn to think of his footwork and get over it nicely. Obviously, you can't go, I don't want to hear people that just go flying all over people's land to go and find a ditch or anything like this. Please try, within reason, or know that you can, or get a farmer's permission or whatever before everyone goes and is flying around all over people's land. But we're very fortunate that the track comes onto the bridle path, so just respect the farmer's fields. Anyway, so my horse he did it forward and back on his own, and then I stood the other side and waited for Marky to then have a go with his horse, who actually has always been a very, very brave horse. He's a very good horse, but he went to it straight off and was like, no, I'm not doing this. Now, I don't think of that as a bad horse. He's a very good jumper. He's a careful jumper. He thought, he just needed a little bit of time to figure out what that was. And so, he did a good job of just turning the horse back to get him back to it in good time. He didn't need to be under a lot of pressure at that point. It's like, just give him a chance to see it and understand it and then go. If we went back to do this in a few days' time, then the pressure, I would have said to him, just be a little bit quicker with the leg, or when he turns around, he could then have a slap on his shoulder, or, a strong slap on his shoulder to say, get on now, and not give him so much time to process it. But because this is totally out of the blue, I want the horse to be able to understand the question So I just said to him, keep turning to it, let him see it, and, you know, keep the leg there at the right time, but give them the freedom, try to go with them. And it's all about timing and feel when the pressure can be added and not, but to go with them. It's not a big dike, it's just very natural, and it's just very different. And I think this sort of thing is always quite fun, and just the building up of a trust between yourself and your horse, doing things that's just slightly a little bit different, but can really just bring a horse on, give them, you know, a bit of fun, a little bit of difference, but, you know, without being able to get out and about. And God forbid everyone goes out now and tries to find a dike off the side of a road to try and jump something. You know, be realistic of what level your horse is at, and, you know, just be realistic and right for them. I would do this with the young ones as well, and the really old ones. And sometimes, you know, you can take a very old experienced one to do little fun things like this, and it isn't as brave as it thinks it is. But like I said, I think it's really nice for a horse this time of year just to get out of the school and go and do a few natural things, a few different things that just gives a horse a good fun day out, that they enjoy it. If I've got a young one there, I will give him a lead. With these two horses that I had on this day, they are perfectly capable of learning to do that themselves with all that they've done for the size of question it was. But if I had a young horse that had never seen anything like this, then I'd definitely give him the benefit of the doubt and tuck him in behind and give him a lead to give him the confidence. But with both horses, I went forward and back quite a few times on their own, think about it, brain to leg coordination, and just know that it's not a stress, not speed. Speed shouldn't have to get you over obstacles. It's just nicely, with no pressure, use the leg when they stop to think that they can go and just nicely get from A to B with it not being a stress or a pressure about it. Okay, so we got over that. I don't think either of us were that great at that from the off, but we got over, and we had a bit of sport. And then we went off cantering round the tracks, nagging about. This is just fun, and I really like it, to be honest. Of hacking now is at another level. Trotting, cantering about, the next bit of fitness. You know, the ground is wet at the minute, it's a bit tacky, it's a bit slippery, it's a little bit muddy, but they're event horses, and it's getting them out and about, enjoying the countryside, getting a bit fitter. Nothing is done at any speed. I think speed and not consistent ground is where you can come to some problems, but to canter about in a nice balance, us in a nice balance and them in a nice balance, isn't going to do any harm, and it's going to, you know, give your horse a good day out, build its fitness up, and our fitness as well. I think, like I said in one of my last videos of trotting and cantering around the school, sometimes doing standing up canter is very good for our leg muscles. If we've not been out cross-country schooling, we haven't run in some events, all that sort of thing, to do some standing up canter to really get your legs strong for that cross-country position. And it's very good. You know, don't underestimate just crossing natural terrain to understand horses' balances, our balance, horses' footwork, how they deal with the ups and downs, the terrain of it. I was brought up doing a lot of hunting when I was younger, and I still believe now every time I go hunting, it surprises me how much you learn natural horsemanship of just, you know, not being on a surface, not having studs in, cantering around, crossing country, up and down, thinking of terrain, of how a horse is going to deal with it, thinking of their balance coming downhill. All these sorts of things can really help with your cross-country riding, of it being smooth and in balance together, training a horse to go up and downhill without, you know, leaning on you, or, you know, just being in a better balance, to help you be able to ride a track as smoothly as possible and us be in balance with them as well, but training them as well. And it gets their concentration as well. I mean, sometimes you can go out and they can be leery little buggers, you know, the moment you start cantering around tracks, and they feel fresh and sharp and all over the place. Well, you don't want them coming out of the start box being leery and spooky and running around. So I think this is great at getting them to settle, to learn to trust you to cross the country and work with you at the same time. You can still train one in a lovely way, cantering about, try to get a nice softness, a nice feel and acceptance of the bridle, a togetherness, without just being in a school, in an arena, working on a specific dressage movement. You can still train so much of a partnership and rideability out and about. So that's why I really like doing it. Anyway, we have a natural ford crossing. So I then let Marky's horse go first because he was a bit not brave at the ditch, and mine was. I said, you go first this time, to just see if he's going to have a look. You know, he can start to man up a bit rather than rely on his mate. So he went first, which was all fine. And we then had a little canter up and down our railway line. Again, talking about how lucky our facilities are. We have an old railway line which has a nice grass verge, and it's peaty going, and it's beautiful ground all year round. And this railway goes for miles and miles, but one of our hacks, which we would sort of do once a week, once every 10 days during the season, is about 7 or 8 miles long. And this railway, on that particular hack, we would slow canter for 3.5 miles sort of thing, just up and down, just all the way one way. We don't turn around and go back on that hack, and it's really lovely for them. It is, and it's great. There's benches every 200 yards or something, which they always spook at and dart across to the other side of the track. But the surface on between where the old railway was is a great surface as well. It's not slippery at all. It's a firmer surface, but not like a road. And so that is a great ride that we do often, and you can vary that as well. Most of the time we ride out in pairs, and you understand from your horse's strengths or weaknesses, one goes in front or one goes behind, or you vary it. Some are better being made to go in front, or they need to pick up the bridle a bit, so they go behind to learn to try and get a bit more excited about it. Or, you know, there's so many different personalities and strengths and weaknesses of a horse that you can just sort of vary it. Or some, I like going on my own most of the time because I need him to be a bit more confident and believe in himself, that he can go out around the country and be on his own and start to believe in things and pay his attention more to me than just tuck in behind a horse and feel like he goes the whole way around, thinking that was easy, and he hasn't thought about anything else because he goes into police horse mode because he's got a friend with him. So you can totally vary things. And I always try to think, when I'm going down, cantering down the railway, they all spook at the bridges, so it's nice to try and think, right, can you make them not spook at the I said bridges, benches, by getting there a little bit earlier, reacting a bit quicker to try and position them in a bit of shoulder in feel before you get to the bench, to try and hold them in. You know, all these sorts of things. It relates to cross-country riding. You might have a bench nearer the string or something turning before a corner, and you want to try and just position it to get it with you before you turn to something skinny. You know, all these little things. It's just knowing a horse so well of how to deal with the right situation. As it happens, I think I spooked to the bench and flew across the track just in front of the camera, which I continue to do on a regular basis with most of them. Some are a lot worse than others, but we have some eventful rides down there, spooking at benches. But, you know, it's just interesting learning to find different ways to get them to do it as well as possible without doing it. And then we canter. We've got a great hill up the top that you can canter up the top there. And I find it as much good cantering down. And again, like I said a minute ago, just to be able to do that, canter down on greasy ground, and get a horse to hold its balance. Us being balanced, put your weight in your heels, bring your body weight back, be able to feel that a horse can come back to you and balance, to feel that you can set it up for a gait at the bottom. And it's not about negativity, it's not about strangling them all the way down and holding. It still means self-carriage. The whole time we're working on dressage or jumping a jump and you want a horse to stand up on its own legs and be in self-carriage, it's still the same thing exactly applies for even out hacking and cantering down hills. Again, no speed really involved. And it's just basic training that is fun, but you figure out how to try and get the best of a horse, or a horse to be able to do that confidently and comfortably, to feel that you can then set it up at the bottom for a decent fence or a skinny or something like that, rather than it running down on its head out of control, yawing away. So all these things really stem to helping with cross-country riding. And you know, even if they are a bit greasy underfoot, you still find a way to just help, support, be there for them with the feel and your own balance and your own strength. And so I think I just find when I'm doing that a lot of it can relate to cross-country riding, albeit I'm 3 gears slower than I would be going cross-country, 4 gears slower probably, but the whole basic training all relays into one. And it's amazing how many horses that I've personally had over the years, or been given an older horse that's got very far up the levels, that I go and do this sort of thing with, and it finds it quite hard to canter downhill or hold itself or that sort of thing. So you know, every horse is different, every horse finds it easier or harder, but it is something that I'm very interested to take them all out to do, all nag about, all get in a bit of mud. I'm so used to it being perfect on an arena, on a nice cross-country schooling field with the flags up and some studs in and everything's perfect. And I think sometimes you can underestimate just getting out and about, giving a horse a bit of fun but working with him. And giving a horse a bit of fun, getting the beans off him. You know, this is something I'd probably do with a horse, you know, a few days before he went to an event. Just desensitise him with a bit of life and getting on the grass. You know, you think you've run through your dressage test so many times in your arena and this feels great, or you've been and show jumped and you're in an arena and suddenly they hit grass and they're fresh as hell and you feel, what have I been doing all winter? Why is he such a moron? So I like to get on the grass and get out and about. But I think you can all see, you know, on our way home we lob up the gallops. And just by seeing the view and the facilities, and you know, I think we just get on with it because it's what we've got, and I've been used to it for the last, you know, God knows how many years of being here. I do know we're very lucky with the facility that we've got, but you come home and think that's you know, lucky horses, lucky people to have the facility that we've got, and you know, it's a poor show if we can't have a fit, happy event horse from this place, that's for sure. But we lobbed back up the gallops and then went to wash their feet in the water jump at home just before getting back. And another thing that I quite like doing is just, we've got a couple of steps at our water, and exactly the same as I did with the walking over the ditch, I like to sometimes just walk in and out, up a step, down a step, very quietly, just so they just learn what their footwork is doing. It doesn't mean just because you're jumping a fence or jumping a cross-country fence, everything is at speed. And it's like kick, kick, slap, go. It's got to be go. I really like a horse to just have time for its brain to its legs, to just really be very trusting. It's not under pressure. I'm not asking every stride for a question of it. He's stood on his own legs, he's using his own brain, and he's able to just quietly walk in and out very confidently, thinking about what he's doing. But that was what we did today. and it was good fun. So I hope you enjoyed watching that. Cool.